So, folks, we gotta talk about the fact that Donald Trump is trying to crash potentially the United States economy and the global economy, and we just kind of don't really know what will happen once he crosses yet another red line. And, well, it has all led to this. This is Jerome Powell, the current chair of the Federal Reserve, a body that is intended to remain independent of the US government so as to act in the best interest of the entire country and not serve any one political agenda. Here he is in a short message to everyone in the country.
On Friday, the Department of Justice served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas, threatening a criminal indictment related to my testimony before the Senate Banking Committee last June. That testimony concerned, in part, a multi-year project to renovate historic Federal Reserve office buildings. I have deep respect for the rule of law and for accountability in our democracy. No one, certainly not the chair of the Federal Reserve, is above the law. But this unprecedented action should be seen in the broader context of the administration's threats and ongoing pressure. This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. It is not about Congress's oversight role. The Fed, through testimony and other public disclosures, made every effort to keep Congress informed about the renovation project. Those are pretexts. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation. I have served at the Federal Reserve under 4 administrations, Republicans and Democrats alike. In every case, I have carried out my duties without political fear or favor, focused solely on our mandate of price stability and maximum employment. Public service sometimes requires standing firm in the face of threats. I will continue to do the job the Senate confirmed me to do, with integrity and a commitment to serving the American people. Thank you.
And that is his statement to the public. And I want you to know that, generally speaking, the chair of the Federal Reserve doesn't just put out 2-minute-long videos onto social media. He even posted, like, the Federal Reserve even posted to Blue Sky. You know, like, they put it everywhere. And this is about as close as you're ever going to get to someone who is in as serious of a role as Jerome Powell telling the Trump administration to go fuck itself, but that's essentially what this was. It's him hitting a giant red button on his desk, telling Trump to go fuck himself, and saying, hey guys, Donald Trump is trying to seize control of the Federal Reserve to serve his own political agenda.
It really reads like a hostage situation.
I mean, they're threatening him. Like, he is specifically saying that, like, they are threatening me to try and get me to stand down here. Like, it's none of this is related at all to the renovations to the Federal Reserve buildings, right? Like, Jerome Powell has been open about the costs of this. The Federal Reserve has been open about the costs of this. This has all been approved years and years ago. Donald Trump has known about the costs associated with this. And by the way, if we're going to talk about illegally appropriating funds in order to make changes to buildings in Washington, D.C., Donald Trump is now threatening to tear down the West Wing of the White House, along with the East Wing, to even them out. You know, and just want to remind everyone, doing that unilaterally as the president is illegal. It doesn't stop being illegal just because you're president. It's still illegal. And this is, again, not great Uh, and historically, what seizing control of the central bank means when it comes to an authoritarian doing that is that it means essentially, you can lower the interest rates as much as you want, but that doesn't stop how the money flows in the economy and how the money gets used in the economy. And generally speaking, as soon as like an authoritarian, especially an authoritarian dipshit like Donald Trump, gets their hands on this money apparatus, they use it for their own gain, which perhaps works in the short term, but in the long term of, multiple years, you start seeing the damage accrue. Here is a good example of one path the Trump administration might be taking us down right now. And this is inflation in Turkey after Erdogan seized the central banking system. So Erdogan signals that he plans to take control of monetary policy in 2018. That causes rampant inflation that comes back down under control. And then we see what happens after Erdogan installs his loyalist here in 2021. And wow, the inflation rate just skyrockets. So if Donald Trump is able to remove Jerome Powell and get one of his loyalists in the Fed, this is a huge problem. Basically, nowhere where an authoritarian has taken control of the central banking system has it worked out for folks. There's not really an example of that happening. It's a really bad sign. And now, if Jerome Powell is able to maintain his position, I believe Donald Trump is able to appoint a new person to chair the Federal Reserve later this year, I think. Let me double check that. Yeah, Federal Reserve Chair serves 4 years and can be reappointed. Yeah, his term as board chair expires on May 15th of this year. But his term as governor goes on until 2028, so he'll still be around, but he won't be the chair of the Federal Reserve, which is a problem. However, the issue here is if Donald Trump tries to remove him early through the mechanism of bringing him and subpoenaing him in front of Congress or in front of the Justice Department, that could be a huge problem. And the last major hurdle, if Donald Trump is successful in this effort to oust Jerome Powell from the Federal Reserve, the last kind of hurdle to him being able to do what he wants would be to appoint, in order to appoint a new chair of the Federal Reserve, Donald Trump has to get that appointee confirmed in Congress. And that Congress would then be the last hurdle that he would need to overcome. And I want to point this out here.
Atriok made a good video on this. I realize you probably want cover, but just wanted to mention that, and even if Powell isn't the chair, there is still a committee that votes on things.
Yeah, but the issue is there are also ways that Donald Trump could make openings. Like if he can oust the chair of the Federal Reserve, he can oust anyone who doesn't vote his way. That's part of the issue, right? And he doesn't like Jerome Powell because Jerome Powell is the one he has to interact with and to get on his side to lower interest rates. And Jerome Powell is just telling him no over and over and over again. And there's nothing preventing him from further, closing his grasp on the Federal Reserve once Jerome Powell is gone. Now, the one thing I will say is that this is a big enough issue that Republicans are also taking notice. So here's Tom Tillis today completely freaking out and vowing to block Trump's federal nominees if Jerome Powell is ousted. Like a lot of Republicans and a lot of the markets that respond to the Federal Reserve's actions are going to turn against Trump in a pretty big way. So hopefully other Republicans would join Tom Tillis, who is also on his way out of office, and The scuttlebutt is that a large number of Republicans behind the scenes are unhappy, but that's not, that's being leaked on purpose, and who knows how accurate it is. But let's just take a look at this real quick.
So many Republicans are not happy with the DOJ opening a criminal investigation into Powell. At least one of them, Senator Thom Tillis, he's threatening to hold up any of Trump's future Fed nominees until the investigation ends. Now, Tillis said in a statement that, quote, if there were any remaining doubts whether advisors within the Trump administration are actively pushing to end the independence of the Federal Reserve, there should now be none. Remember, Tillis sits on the banking committee. That's the one that votes on Fed nominees. That means if he and all Democrats vote together, they can bring any new Fed nominees to a standstill. And it's not just Tillis who's upset. Senator Kevin Cramer, who's also on the banking committee, told me that Powell is a bad chair, but not a criminal, and called for the investigation to be put to rest quickly.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty much, I gotta say, the fact that Thom Tillis is able and willing to use his power in this way is an incredibly good sign just for financial stability in the United States. But keep in mind, the reason it's happening is because the money is scared. When you start fucking with the money, that's when shit really goes down. And up till now, the markets have at least outwardly expressed a lot of optimism for where Trump is going. But keep in mind, most of that optimism is due to that AI bubble. If that bubble bursts, say if there's some kind of financial crisis caused by the Trump administration, the collapse would be catastrophic, to say the least. And the good news is, if Thom Tillis alone can halt any effort, at least through the end of his term, to install a new chair of the Federal Reserve. So this is a stopgap, but it is way too close to be comfortable and to be safe in this scenario. But I wanted you all to understand, right now, financially, we're kind of teetering on the verge of some truly, truly bad economic outcomes. Some of the analysis I was looking at earlier indicated potentially a downturn like we haven't seen since the 1970s. We're going beyond 2008 crisis all the way back to the 70s. So, just keep in mind that is happening. And in response to all of this news, when the markets opened today, the price of gold shot up to a record high. Just to let you guys know where some investors are looking at the moment. So that's where we're at right now in Trump's America. People are afraid of financial collapse. Wages are stagnant. Prices are going up. Tariffs are killing jobs. But no, we're all doing the best we've ever done.
Go beyond plus ultra no wait, not like that, oh god.
Indeed, Nathan. Thank you for the $5 dono. And folks, get organized. Join your local Dems. Join your local DSA. Join our Discord if you don't know where to start with those things. And also, comment longer than 8 words. Apparently matters more in the algorithm, so do with that what you will. Subscribe. Become a member. And folks, check out ImogeneOlivia.com. Gender euphoric lingerie designed from the ground up for trans femmes and tested with cis men, cis women, non-binary folks. There's a link down in the description. Go check it out. And let's keep on going. It's going to get worse before it gets better, folks.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, gaming, and plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.